Good evening. Being 6:30 and a quorum, or majority of the quorum, quorum being present for the planning board, we'll call the meeting to order. Pursuant to chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a remote Zoom format. The public has been provided with adequate alternative means of access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20F. Any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair as of at this time. Anybody recording? Usually not anyway. Those in attendance for the planning board are myself, Jim Maximowski, Joe Zagrodnik, Bill Dwyer, Mark Dunn. Kishore Parmar will not be joining us tonight. And Mark, you want to call your meeting to order?
Sure. And the Hadley Smart Growth Steering Committee, we have a quorum with attending Mark Dunn, Ronnie Williams, Randy Iser, Andrew Gnatic, and I think that's all I saw. So I would call our meeting to order.
Okay. We'll be having the their joint meeting is in a few minutes.
Okay.
First one, site plan review approval, sign review approval for the healing zone at 58 Russell Street. Who has Rio Kelly? Yes, you're up.
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead. You're up.
Oh, okay. Yes, so I own the healing zone. It's at 58 Russell Street. And currently we have a sign on the building. It's just probably a vinyl sign, and my clients are having a really hard time. They're missing the building quite often. And so I would like to put a sign that faces the traffic. I know that you guys, the sign is required a 20-foot feet off of the
Right away.
Yeah, right away. Sorry. And at that, my neighbor, the lot is small as it faces the street, and neighbors on each side. One has a hedge that's really tall that is also an issue for my clients. And then on the other side, there's trees, and so I'm asking if it can be 15 feet instead of 20. It's still there's already a sidewalk that exists, but if that's an issue, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm trying to remember who's a local company is making my sign. It is a plastic sign, but it is going to look wood, he assures me, which I know is part of the permit. Yeah, and basically,
do you have a plot plan or a picture of what the sign will look like?
I sent in the sign is going to be my logo. Like that's all, and so it's the.
I'll be honest.
Okay.
We can't approve a sign unless we see what it looks like.
Okay, so I should get okay. I'll talk.
I'm going to pull up what I have.
Okay.
So first of all, this is the site with the sign location.
Yeah. And you'll see like the small amount that's on Russell Street there. And then on the right side, you'll see the healing zone logo on the page, and that is what the sign will look like.
What color will the sign be?
It'll be that same, it's going to be white.
Black and white?
I'm hoping that it'll have some of the color, but like, yes, black, it'll basically, it's going to look exactly like that logo, and anything else that is not the logo is going to be white.
Okay, hang on a sec. Let me bring up the sign part.
Okay.
Where's 58 Russell?
Do you know where Transworld Market is?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like 2 locations closer to the bridge than we are.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Like across from Eversource or Riverbend or something like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Yeah, there's like a gas station that's sort of like kitty corner and down, or no, kitty corner and back towards Essalon from us. I think it's I don't think it's a Pride station. I can't remember
Yeah.
what gas station it is. Yeah, so that's what the sign will look like.
Does it
Basically be the
dimension?
logo. Yes, it's gonna be a 4x6. And I'm willing to make it smaller. It doesn't, 4x6 was just something that I decided might be big enough for cars to see at that speed. But if you wanted it a 3 foot by 5 foot, I'm fine with that too.
4x6 is fine.
Okay.
You're the only tenant in the building, correct?
Yes, I am the only business in the building. Nancy Newton and Donna Burho are the owners of the building, and they actually live upstairs. And they're aware that I'm doing this, and yeah, and it's per my lease agreement, it's fine.
Okay. So the sign, the sign is basically black lettering. Let me ask a question
Okay,
before you jump in. So the sign is
Great.
gonna be black lettering on white with that circle in the background with those colors.
correct.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I want to verify. Okay,
Do we have anything that indicates its height off the ground or?
Yes, I think in there,
It's in the email that's on the side, 6 feet high.
Okay,
yeah,
So it would be on a post or 2 posts.
and be
Correct,
two, and be 2 feet off the ground.
yeah.
And then 4x6, okay.
so
Yeah.
it's 6 feet to the top of the sign or the bottom of the sign?
To the top of the sign.
Okay. Why is it 15 feet as opposed to 20 again?
Because the lot on the street is so narrow, and then one neighbor has a hedge that's probably 8 feet, that's really close to the sidewalk, and then the other neighbor has a row of trees so that block it. But it blocks the view. Like just those 5 feet makes a huge difference in visibility.
The only question I have is if it's 15 feet off of the highway or right of.
Yes.
Off of the highway or right away?
Off the
The right of way
highway.
is a property line that you may not know. It could be in the grass. So are you
Okay.
thinking off the edge of pavement?
I guess I assumed it was off of edge of payment because of the plan that was given to me that indicates Russell Street as the edge of the property. That was given to me by Donna Burho.
Okay, so that Russell Street is unlikely, Russell Street, it is more than likely your property line.
Okay,
So you're gonna be more than 15 feet off of the highway. And the reason we like to keep it off of the right of way is so that when people, your sign's only gonna be 6 feet high, so it's gonna be 2 feet off the ground. Is it going to impede sight lines as you're pulling into Route 9?
oh, like from my driveway.
From your driveway and from the neighbor's driveways.
I see the concern. Thank you.
Okay, that is why we have the setback.
Okay,
So.
that makes sense. I
okay,
appreciate
so
that clarity.
if you only want to be 15 feet off of the actual Russell Street pavement, your property line is back from there, I don't know how far. So you're
Okay.
going to be really close to the highway, and you will probably be, you could be impeding sight lines.
Okay,
So, I mean, we have no problem with the sign itself.
okay,
Placement, you may want to go back and see where you really want to place it so that you make it correct.
okay, okay.
Okay,
And so how will I find out like where the actual edge of the property is?
there should be some place in the front corners of the property, some property marker, either iron pins or concrete markers or something like that.
Okay,
In one or both corners of the front property, there should be something like that.
okay. I will look for that,
And if you
probably on a
can't find it
drier
on
day.
your property, just walk the sidewalk and others may have something. And
Okay,
typically, all the front property boundary markers are in a straight line,
Right.
okay.
okay?
I have vision training.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks and I'm gonna get the property line, I'm just to clarify, like, I'm gonna figure out where the property line is and I'll get do the,
Yeah, I suspect what you're going to find is the Route 9, usually when a road like that is laid out, the layout is much wider than the pavement. But this has been expanded to 4 lanes, and there weren't any major takings that I can recall associated with that. So
Okay.
the pavement is probably pretty much up to your property line.
okay,
But just look for some property line markers in your area. The car dealership was a fairly recent, and they probably had a pretty definitive survey done. So there'd be some markers up there. It's in
Okay.
your area.
the Nissan, that
Right.
Nissan dealership,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Perfect,
Also, what some people have done is they have taken like a wooden stake and put it in the ground where they plan to have their sign, and they take a picture and send that to us, which helps us all be on the same page.
great, thank you for that advice.
Okay. Anybody here for filing applications for any kind of projects? Nothing? Okay, we've got a couple of minutes technically before 7:45.
6:45.
6:45.
We can do the joint meeting anytime. I didn't put that down for a time.
Okay. So you want to do the Smart Growth Committee next? The reason I'm trying to start the other ones because I think the Smart Growth review is going to take some time.
Okay.
Well, we can continue Sovereign Builders. 42 Middle Street. Are you here? Doug Sorrell,
Yes, hello.
let's reopen that public hearing because we can do that one.
Okay, great.
That sounds good, because I didn't have an agenda for the smart growth other than what the planning board had. So that sounds good.
Okay,
All yours, Jack, Doug.
Great, thank you, Mark. I'm also here with Jeff Squire and Todd Solora. And can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and ask. They've moved the button again.
Yes, I hit share and it says disabled, host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Well, I didn't. So
What's the address again?
It is 42 Middle Street.
Thank you.
Let's try that. Okay, that's a pickle. Not sure.
okay,
No,
it
that was-
should be in here somewhere.
Now I'm showing 6:45, so we're legit.
Let's see. Select share. can share. Okay. That should do it.
Okay, great. Looks like that is great. So we since our last hearing, one of the things that the two items that we were discussing at our last hearing, we're getting comments from the Postal Service for our proposed location that was at the far east end of the site. And also we had been waiting for some time for comments from the fire department. So we received comments from the Postal Service and we received comments from the fire department, which we have addressed both of them very quickly. The Postal Service, as a number of you had suggested and predicted, that they prefer access to cluster mailbox that are closer to the main street rather than in the back of the site. So we had relocated 3 cluster mailboxes to a location along the initial access road into the site. There's a pedestrian access to this location. There's also 2 parallel parking spots to allow the residents access to the mailbox. So that should address, they basically only circled a map and sent that back to us for a preferred location. There weren't really other comments. And so this is in that preferred location. So we find that this addresses that for the Amherst Post Office. Mark, did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I make noise? No. I mean, you're reading my mind. I'm out of turn, but I walked past the site and I wondered how many trees are going to get taken down for your access road.
That is a good question. I don't have an accurate count. There will be trees that are coming down from this site, and this particular page that is up is the
Right.
oh boy. Hello?
Yep.
Sorry, my computer screen was flashing in and out. I do not know why. This is a site plan and materials layout sheet that is currently being showed. So it's not showing the planting
Existing.
plan, the full planting
Right.
plan. Yes,
Right.
and the existing trees. So, but that, yes, there will be some trees that are removed along this corridor in this area for this location.
Okay. Okay.
And so the fire department also had several small comments. Overall, they said that they support the plan if the comments were addressed. And so I wanted to run through those comments very quickly here. This is an updated sheet. Just around 6 p.m. tonight, I sent a revised set of plans, including, the layout sheet and this sheet here, the utilities sheet. This is the main water line that was coming into the site. One of their comments was that the water line needed to be changed from a 6-inch diameter line to an 8-inch diameter line. The standard lines that go to fire hydrants have been confirmed by civil engineers in our office are, in fact, 6-inch lines to the hydrants. So, but the 8-inch is the main service now through the neighborhood in this proposed plan. So, and they wanted to relocate the fire hydrant from where it was previously proposed, just north of the public kind of community plaza to just north of the roadway before it splits into the loop. So we relocated the first fire hydrant of the site. The second fire hydrant within the site was fine, and that is in the same location as before. The next comment that they had made was that they wanted to review some no parking fire lane signs. And so, they said that there needs to be some signage in this location. And so what we have done, it's a little bit difficult to see, but it's highlighted in these purple marks on either side of the fire hydrant here and either side of the fire hydrant here. We are proposing to add in no parking fire lane signs just to make sure that when there's a need to access the fire hydrant, that the fire department will be able to park there vehicles nearby within proximity of that hydrant to be able to access that. And then the other piece that we wanted to share with you guys as part of this conversation for this was that, you know, we don't want to litter the site with a series of signs all around, but we wanted to add that it would be language that the HOA for the proposed community would be able to say, you know, that there's no permanent on-street parking. And so, you know, limited, you know, for like temporary on-street parking would be allowed, but there's no permanent on-street parking available, given that there are garages and driveways for each of the units. And but allow that to be language and regulations that are imposed by the HOA rather than by the special permit. So the way that the fire department worded that language was that there would need to be provisions either prohibiting or limiting on-street parking to maintain a required unobstructed access. And, you know, per the zoning regulations, you know, we need a 24-foot wide road. They require a 20-foot unobstructed access. The loops are large enough to accommodate all of their vehicles. They had no issue with that. But it would be, you know, to have permanent on-street parking would require that this road lane then be 28 feet wide, which is, I don't mean to sound dramatic, but I would say obscene for a small residential neighborhood to have a 28-foot wide road. So at 24 feet, if there was a vehicle parked on the side, there's still more than enough width room for any size fire department vehicle, for their largest vehicles, to be able to pass through that area. 24 feet, if you put a Suburban that's 7 to 8 feet wide on one side, there's still 16 feet of travel lane for a vehicle to be able to get through. So what we wanted to do was kind of place no parking fire zone, fire lane signs near those hydrants, but otherwise allow the HOA to be able to address that. So those are the main comments that I wanted to make regarding what the fire department was asking about. Otherwise, we addressed all of their comments and feel that we've responded to the fire department and to the postal service. And so,
has the fire department seen what you came back with?
they have not yet seen this. We, we thought if we addressed these comments with you, that they would be sufficient for the special permit. If there was a condition with the, for additional reviews or approvals by the fire department, that could be conditioned within the special permit.
That's a standard condition.
Okay.
That
If
our
I can-
main concern was not letting you build yourself into a corner where you weren't going to satisfy the fire department under any circumstances, and you didn't know that until you're already past the permitting stage.
Understood. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I mean, as far as your signage go, I think that's a good idea. Instead of putting, a bunch of signs around, put a couple of signs up where you think appropriate, and then just make it part of the covenants of the homeowners HOA, so that they know they're not supposed to be parking on a street permanently, kind of
Right.
you're going to have visitors parking on a street on and off. So,
Exactly.
Well,
Okay. Well, great.
Jim, a car or two parked on the street is not going to be a major concern, but if all of a sudden the HOA no longer chooses to enforce that rule, do we incorporate it into our special permit? You were asking that we should not, but do we usually do it, Bill?
We don't usually, because this is a private way. This is a driveway.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal until it becomes a big deal or a problem, so.
Well, I mean, it's a 24-foot wide road, so it's going to take an awful lot of cars parked on the street typically in front of the buildings to really impede traffic. I mean, if they're parked in the corners, well, that might be a little bit different, but if they're parked in the main part in front of houses, you know, one car, it's not like it would be easy, but a car or two parked or several, I doubt they're gonna be a big impediment to fire trucks. The fire trucks are not that massive.
Doug, Doug, if I missed it, sorry, but did you say that the temporary parking would be allowed on both sides or on one's like on the outside or on the inside?
I think that, that it could be on either side in front of the homes, but the HOA would be able to determine to say, where the limits would be for that. So that there would be a modesty of parking in front of this. I'm trying to picture what a Thanksgiving might look like, or some other holiday where there are some folks that are visiting and parking along the way. And so, that would be something that the HOA may determine to say that there would be parking only on one side or the other. But I didn't want to enforce that here in the special permit.
Okay.
And this is, sorry, Jeff Squire, also from the Berkshire Design. The other thing I think it's important to keep in mind is that the space between driveways in most instances only allows space for 2 cars at most, or maybe 3 cars on some of the larger gaps, but it's not a huge amount of cars. And I anticipate it would function very much like any other roads that are, this wide, where cars start parking on, a single side, and that becomes the, what everybody follows as the norm. You're not going to have cars parked, directly across from each other on a 2-lane road.
That's what I was concerned about, because that would become a plug for the fire department.
Yep.
Exactly.
And I think that the way the driveways are aligned also prevent some of that also, Mark, that some of the driveways for the units are directly across from others that don't allow, you couldn't park a car across the street in some instances.
So you're gonna put that into the HOA.
The
not-
HOA,
and-
correct.
And not count on visitors' common sense.
Right.
Thank you.
Anything else, Doug?
No, that's all that I wanted to share.
Okay. Anybody else have anybody on the planning board, anybody have any comments or other questions? There are none, seeing none.
Doug, could you stop sharing?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Done an admirable job of addressing all the questions and concerns.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much for especially reaching out to the post office, because that could have been a real mess if you wanted one space and whatever. Okay.
No, I appreciate you guys had helpful suggestions with that. Definitely appreciate that.
Well, just that we've seen, there's been recently in the last few years, even on regular approved subdivisions, the few that we have, the post office boxes are placed relatively close to the main road. So I
Mhm.
want to, if you could put them way back, that's fine. But if you couldn't, we just want to have you get caught. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, no, I
Great.
appreciate that.
Enough of that. Anybody else have anything? Seeing none? Mr. Dwyer, motion?
Sure.
Have we, just the number of affordable housing units remains the same as in our bylaws?
Yes.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the application for a senior housing special permit under section 28 of the Hadley zoning bylaw. This complies with the purposes of the bylaw. It's in an appropriate location, does not significantly adversely affect the character of the neighborhood. Lot has a minimum 50-foot frontage on an approved town way. Water and sewer are available at the frontage. These housing units consist less than 5% of the existing single-family housing units located in Hadley. Would comply with the building and dwelling unit requirements of the bylaw. and the dimensional requirements of the bylaw. Adequate parking is provided. Construction and maintenance of roads, driveways, and parking areas is the sole responsibility of the applicant or an association of dwelling unit owners. These are not public ways. Management should be responsible for maintenance and repair of internal roads. Adequate open space has been provided. The senior housing development would not be detrimental or offensive to the adjoining zoning districts and neighboring properties. Would not cause undue traffic congestion. Responds to the recommendations of town boards and agencies. Would not result in unsuitable development of the land in question. Work will be conducted in accordance with the plans, the Russell Street housing. I had a revised of 2/17, but there's a new revision date, isn't there? Is that today? Plan revision date?
Today's date, July 7th, is put on those most recent sheets.
7. Okay. Okay, traffic impact study is waived. Application has been distributed as provided in the bylaw. The affordability requirements at a minimum 15%, as defined, and there'll be a full definition in the written decision. The design features are considered to be an integral part of the approved design, must be maintained as installed. Any outdoor lighting fixtures shall be shielded so as not to produce strong direct light beyond the property lines, subject to approval of other boards if and as required, including Conservation Commission, the Sewer Commission, Select Board as water commissioners, and state agencies with jurisdiction. And public safety. Planning board must approve any project changes directed by other boards. The project will be reviewed for compliance by an independent consultant on behalf of the planning board. A certificate of compliance issued by the consultant will be required before issuance of permanent certificates of occupancy. The special permit shall expire for either of the following conditions: failure to begin construction within 12 months of date of issue of the special permit, or failure to accomplish substantial completion within 30 months of the date of issue of the special permit. And anyone who chooses to appeal may do so according to Massachusetts law.
That is the motion.
That is the motion.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, hearing none, roll call vote.
I think Mr. Dunn is frozen.
Uh-huh. Maybe he'll come back.
Well, we need
We need
Well,
more.
if I
So
turn off, can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can. Roll call.
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Because I did have questions when you were asking if there's any discussion.
Okay,
I had a question for a question for the chair and the clerk. So there are concerns that are being addressed in the HOA. Does the HOA get approved by anyone like the select board, or is that we just take them at their word that the parking concerns will be addressed in the HOA? I'm not familiar with how that's handled.
as to mine, maybe Mr. Dwyer could answer that better, but I believe the HOA is in basically a independent agency of anybody approval in a town, and it is solely at the discretion and, for lack of a better word, direction of the property owners. The town has no authority overseeing the HOA.
Yeah,
I don't want to have authority overseeing the HOA.
Having a trust or an HOA is part of the condominium statute. So, yeah, to be a functioning condo, they have to have it.
Okay.
How effective it is depends on how effective, I've seen condos with 2 and 3 units, and how effective they are depends on how effective and committed the unit owners are.
Is that it, Mark?
And question was, are you still hearing me? Okay.
We can hear you. Hey, Mark.
Look, now it can't.
Yeah, I'm getting your sound.
This is Jeff Squire again. Mark, one of the other, oh, I'm sorry, one of the other things
Just
that
skip
is
my other-
common in other towns is that a condition of the permit would be to submit a copy of the HOA covenants. And that would include restriction for parking, on only one side of the street. So that could be a condition, we've seen that often in other municipalities where we can submit that as part of the condition of the permit. Just to ensure that there's language in there that prohibits parking on both sides of the street, that it's only limited to one side.
Well, if you could decide on which side you wanted it on, I could put that in the decision.
So I would suggest the outer loop because there's probably more space on that side. And it doesn't have the sidewalk.
Parking one side only, outer loop.
There was a condition.
Okay.
Conditions, Mark? You can avoid this?
That's all I had. I'm ready to start the
We're under
the
the
vote if you want.
We're into the roll call vote. You're
Are
first.
we ready to vote? In which case,
Yes.
done. Aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximovsky, aye.
Done.
Zagradnik, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with 1 absent. Very good.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Jeff.
Good time. Much appreciated.
Mr. Comia, do you have anything special or you really just want to hear and listen about the 40R discussion of the proposed bylaw?
I think my colleague Evan and I were here to see how we can help regarding the 40R. In addition to, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, we might be talking about something else. Maybe? I don't know. I know that I don't know. I know that I think we have typically scheduled the appearance before the Hadley Planning Board as the first meeting of the month. So, maybe it was just to get an initial conversation going regarding some deliverables that we would be working on over the next couple of weeks for you to continue to review as necessary.
So I actually have kind of 2 ideas. And one thing we can do is we could take up later, actually, just authorizing Jim to sign the FY27 contract.
Right.
But I was thinking that, and this is the conversation I had with Kim, that maybe for right now, we're over budget on 40R. And so I think maybe we're back to perhaps devoting some of our direct contract funds to get 40R over the hump.
Okay.
And the other thing that I had played around with as an idea, not exactly a proposal, but instead of trying to do a lot of one-on-one work on a particular targeted bylaw, I was sort of volunteering if you wanted to use some of our money and maybe some of the money of the other communities that are using your contract services to apply towards doing some model bylaws. That might be a good use of it as well. I didn't really flesh that out, and I hadn't talked to anyone else about it, and I hadn't really even talked to you about it. But it was just an idea that I had, that rather than we have a few things on the table, but the big thing is getting 40 yards at fall town meeting. So we'd be working on that anyway, and to the extent you can bill some of that back to our contract, that'll keep the ball rolling.
Yeah,
But-
I'm happy to, engage in that conversation with you. I think, as you probably are aware, many times, either with Kyle, who you worked with, or even me, there's always been opportunities, especially for DLTA grants or other types of grants that might be available, where the Hadley Planning Board and maybe some other communities might be able to pool any sort of match, which I don't think any of our current grants require one, but that particular conversation regarding model bylaws, I think, is one that's well worth a future conversation. Particular if there are ones that you are interested in. I think in addition to that, and you'll probably be getting some emails regarding this. The conversation about some technical assistance regarding solar, but I don't want to take away from your 40R. I think the conversation, well, we can definitely extend that, and appreciate the contract being signed as soon as you are able. But I'm happy to continue those conversations, Bill and Jim, with regards to what you might be looking at as far as a work plan after 40R.
Yeah, let's, is everyone content to just sort of focus on getting 40R to fall town meeting for now?
I think that's what we should be. Yeah, I mean, let's see what we can do to get that going.
Okay. Sounds good.
I don't know, is this is this Evan and I, is this did you want to set up the work, Mark, with regards to your committee? I think that's where we're headed, right, Jim? Like talking
Yeah.
about.
Talk about the actual bylaw.
Yeah. Yeah, so do we want to run through, do you want to run through the rough outline of the different sections and then see if?
Mark, I honestly want to go page by page, because I have
Okay.
that many comments and questions.
Okay,
Okay,
so I see this public hearing being extended, okay?
well,
Or being continued. Yeah.
you don't want to wait for a public hearing to get to these comments, because you want to address them now.
Sure,
Because,
yeah,
by the time we get to a public hearing, you want it to be much smoother.
sure, yep,
So we are now into the joint meeting.
Yes.
yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure if it's best to put this up or just talk about, maybe, somebody want to share a screen? Anybody have it available?
I can.
Probably might be best, so that people can follow, so that everybody can follow along with it.
What is it? Let's see. Let me see if I can share. Hold on. You see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. I don't know, Mark, I didn't know if, or Jim, however, how you wanted to maybe look at this. Is it addressing points that you might have already identified, or do we just want to go page by page and allow folks to offer comments?
I guess I want to go to the very first page.
This one, the cover?
That one right there, yes. All right. First comment I have is your acronym may offend people. I suggest you find a different acronym as opposed to SGOD.
Oh. Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's some examples for some of our communities.
I mean, I'm sure you can come up with something that'll work fine.
You could do just SGD perhaps.
That may be worse.
Yeah, so I think, you know, maybe an idea here is to come up with some language and I,
Could be something as simple as a 40R overlay district,
exactly.
you know.
Yeah, I think South Hadley, is an overlay, as does East Hampton, so I think of those.
Yep.
They obviously, and they also have the sub-district, components to those overlays too, so I think
Yep.
something that makes sense.
Next page. Yeah, I will make my comments first, but if other people have comments for this particular page, please feel free. Let's see.
Yeah.
As a general comment, this proposal specifically says zone bylaws. Hadley has a zone bylaw, BYLAW. It's not plural. And throughout our existing bylaw is called a zone bylaw. So we may want to be consistent with that wording and drop the plural. Also, you need to renumber the sections to be consistent with the existing zone bylaw.
Know what number this would be?
I can give that, I'll get that to you, Mark. Okay.
Okay.
We are presently up to Roman numeral 30, XXX.
So this would be XXI, 3X is an I.
Okay.
31.
But within the text of the bylaw itself, it's Arabic numerals.
Right. Okay. Under section 2, I mean, I have nothing else in section 1. Section 2 definitions, you've got PAA mentioned, but you don't define it here. You define it in the definitions. I suggest, and this is going to be two parts here. PAA should be defined here and not have somebody go looking into the definitions for what is PAA. Next comment along the exact same item is PAA actually says that the planning board is the approval authority. Why do you even go with PAA? Just get rid of PAA entirely and simply call it planning board, because that's exactly who the PAA is. You just
Yeah.
made it a little bit more complex in my 2 cents here, that to rename the planning board the PAA.
No, I think that's coming from the state template, so sure.
Okay. It simplifies a little bit there. Next one are the definitions. You said affordable housing. Housing that is affordable and occupied by eligible households. But no place in this definition, any place in the bylaw, do I find what affordable housing, what housing that is affordable defined. we define eligible households further in the definitions, but you don't really define housing that is affordable. So question, should it be defined?
Yeah. And should that reference a state, that,
Yeah, I mean, this is I think Jim brings up good points, and I'm sure this is gonna be the case with most of his comments. Anything coming from a template obviously needs to be customized to the town's bylaw. And so I think with regard to these definitions, affordable housing is kind of, yeah, we can probably come up with, we would want to see how affordable housing might be addressed elsewhere in your zoning bylaw, because I'm not quite sure if you might address that in your senior housing or in your inclusionary zoning.
Right.
But I think,
I
yeah.
believe we do define it someplace, Ken, so you could always just reference that section.
yeah, so I think we'll just identify the opportunity to either remove that or rely on another definition.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Whether that's-
There is a paragraph on affordability in the inclusionary zoning, because that's what I incorporated into the decision. I didn't read it out at length, but that's what I incorporated in the decision for the project we just approved.
do you know off the top of your head if that references HUD or MGL or? That's okay if you don't.
Yes, it does. Up to 80% of the median is
Area.
defined by HUD, and
Okay. Further down in definitions, you've got monitoring agent or administering agent. You call it, I forgot what you call it, there's no acronym for it. But all I'm going to make a comment here is this agency has a lot of work under this bylaw. And if it's the housing authority, they have already told us that they want no part of the senior housing references that we have in town. They only want to be in charge of the existing Golden Court and housing behind Golden Court, and they want nothing to do with any of these other housing affordability projects. So I'm not quite sure who is going to be the monitoring agent or administering agent for 40R, because existing town agencies are going to not want to do it.
Is that something we could bounce to the Amherst Housing Authority?
You're asking the wrong person. I mean, that's something that's going to have to be investigated.
Okay, sure.
Okay, that's all I have for section 2. And then I go to section 3, underlying zoning.
can we just go back to section 2 for a minute?
Sure.
Just overall, we do have a definition section. In fact, I think you worked on it with us, Ken, and you had a good format for grouping definitions by what they relate to.
Okay.
So we may want to consider just following up with that.
So moving to its own section, we'll address some of the comments regarding
Moving it to Article 1.2.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Point.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I go to section, let me hear. 3.1 or 3, section 3, and under 3.2 underlying zoning. Um, it just seems that 3.2 is a bit wordy. It's not really clear. But let me explain what I mean here, that the 40R district is an overlay zoning. And everything in this bylaw only applies to the overlay part. All of the underlying zoning is still in full force and effect. And the way 3.2 is worded, it just seems a bit complex. A little bit too wordy, like within the boundaries of SGOT, a developer may elect to develop a project in accordance with the requirements of the smart growth zoning or to develop a project in accordance with requirements of the regulations for use, dimension, and all of the provisions of the zoning bylaw governing the underlying district. It seems like some of this could be simplified, okay? I'm not sure that everything needs to be said, as far as, all the dimensions of reuse, dimensions, and other provisions. I'm just trying to make this bylaw a little bit less wordy.
Good point, Jim. I thought that the overlay district overrode the underlying district, like developers couldn't pick and choose. You're either one or the other. So like,
I agree with that,
yeah,
okay?
because this
They
one,
they can't do some of each. They have to do one or the
right,
other.
right.
I think that needs to be made very clear here.
And so there, if there are conflicts, like for example, parking, if 40R is minimal on parking, so that would conflict with, I think, all of our underlying districts. So they have to choose, are you doing, yeah, so that they don't cherry pick. Oh, well, we're gonna use the 40R. Yeah,
Yeah, you can't do some of this and some of that. You're gonna do all of one or all of the other.
right.
Yes.
Oh, Jimmy, are you just concerned with taking out basically one of the lines? You know, I'm hearing what you're saying. And so if we develop a project in accordance with the requirements of the smart growth zoning, or to develop a project in accordance with the underlying zoning district, is that what you're basically saying?
I don't want to say that wording is okay. I'd like to see it written down, but yes, the intention is it's all of one or all of the other. Going to make that very clear. You can only do one or the other. You can't mix and match.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a very important foundational.
Yeah, and that also, it kind of goes with section 4 on the top of page 5. In this one, it sounds like that all projects in the SGOD must have a residential use. So this sounds like the way it's worded, all projects have to be SGOD. You can't use the underlying district anymore. Okay, so I just want to make sure things are clear.
I would vote that we just, even tonight, we say 40R instead of SGOD.
Yeah, I'm good with that, Mark. And I think that what Jimmy just pointed out here is all projects utilizing 40R must have a residential use.
Exactly.
Okay, that's all I have on this stuff. up to section 4. Anybody else have anything? Okay, section 5. Particularly, I've got 5.3. You redefine, I mean, not that it's a big deal, but you redefine monitoring agent here with the exact same wording that's already in the definitions. I don't know if you want to do that or simplify it. It's up to however you want to put that forward.
I lost audio on that. I saw Jim's mouth move, but I didn't get any audio. That's what his wife likes.
He was just mentioning that the same language that already appears in the definitions is reiterated there.
Oh, right, which is superfluous.
Yeah,
And if you're gonna change it, you'd like to change it in just one place, not have to chase it all the way through.
if it's going to be a definition,
Yeah,
just put a monitoring agent and leave out the rest of that sentence there.
yeah.
Because it's already, you wanted to, it should be defined. Leave it in the definitions and make this a little bit shorter. That's all I have up to I did have something in the 5.7. Anybody else have anything up to there?
Just going back to the 5.3, the monitoring agent. You do have a clause where you can turn the duties over to a qualified housing entity, although that's not defined. But we would want to be sure that there is a compensation clause built in there, because we are going to have to use an outside entity, whether it's Valley CDC or, going to have to designate someone to overlook this on our behalf. And they would have to be compensated by the applicant.
My next one in the 5.7, anybody have anything between here and 5.7? No? 5.7, the very first section 1. Specification of the term of the affordable housing restriction shall be stipulated in the plan approval decisions, but in no case less than 30 years. Why is it 30 years and why not in perpetuity?
I think that, I mean, I guess we can ask EOHLC if that is something that you can do. 30 years is one of the, as you are aware, with regards to maybe some of your affordable units in your subsidized housing inventory, that might be a typical kind of way that.
That's an old statement. All of the new units that we have approved in one case or another have all been in perpetuity.
Okay, great.
I have nothing else in section 5. Anybody have anything? Okay, section 6. I've got a few on this one. Oh, I'm sorry, section 6. I have nothing in section 6.
Section 6, I think, is just dimensional and density requirements, general, and then it's section 7, parking.
Section 7, parking. Yeah. Okay. The non-residential 4 spaces per 1,000 square foot. How does that compare relatively to our existing 2-to-1? Any idea? What is this, what size are you using as a parking space? How big is a parking space?
It's a good question. We probably have to kind of do it from like going backwards to determine, is this equivalent of the calculations that you typically use for your own parking calculations?
Yeah.
Um,
We define a parking space in the TDR bylaw.
okay,
With the size of a parking area. However, in the regular parking, we don't, that's only because one TDR equals so many parking spaces. But in the general parking requirement, obviously, it's 2 square feet of parking for 1 square foot of building. But we do not, we leave it up to the developers as far as parking spaces. And if you drive around Hadley, you'll find parking spaces anywhere from 8 foot to maybe close to 9.5 foot wide, and probably from 17, 16 foot, well, not 16, probably 17 foot long to 20 feet long. So it's all over the place. That's, if we're going to define a parking space, I think we should define how big a parking space is. Otherwise, people may try to squeeze parking. I mean, a typical vehicle is less than a typical auto is less than 8 foot wide. However, a bigger vehicle like a pickup truck or a bigger pickup truck like a 3/4 F-350, those things can be very close to 8 foot wide. So if the parking space is 7 foot wide, boy, you're going to have a real tough time getting in and out of there and out of your doors. So,
yeah.
In my other,
Go ahead.
well, in my other existence as an architect, 9 by 18 is what a lot of developers, I mean, I consider that the minimum. If I can get someone to do 10 by 20, that's great. Like when you go to Stop and Shop, they have those like double lines between each one that kind of helps you guide and get in out of that door ding zone. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question for.
Yeah, I think that you can be flexible as how you want to standardize this particular bylaw. But I think to your point, Jim, if you already have standards identified in the TDR and you find that that is sufficient, then we should just use them.
All the TDR says is 1 parking space is equal to 200 square feet.
okay.
So 10 by 20.
10 by 20.
Okay.
I mean, I doubt people are going to want to make it wider than that. But
No.
I guess you could make it 1 foot by 200 feet because we're not specific, but basically the intent there was 10 by 20.
Yeah.
Okay. My only question is, like I said, how it compares to our existing. I know 2-for-1 includes driveways and such and such. And I've been trying to visualize many parking areas. And when you include a drive lane and a parking, it kind of comes out ballpark that 1 square foot of building approximately equals 1 square foot of actual parking. Not exact, but it's close. So 3 spaces per 1,000 square foot. Like Amherst uses 3.3 spaces per 1,000 square foot up to 10,000. 2.5 spaces for 10,000 to 12.5, and 2 spaces over 12.5. And that's just Amherst. I'm not saying we should duplicate that. Amherst and Northampton uses 2 to 6 parking spaces for most uses and 6 to 10 for a restaurant. And my only comment here is if we require 4 spaces and it ends up being some kind of a retail, and that's adequate. But if it goes into a restaurant, 4 spaces will be inadequate. And Therefore, what's the restaurant gonna do? They can't move in? That seems like a, you know, a very limiting factor. I know it further in the bylaw, it talks about sharing parking. Well, what if the neighbor doesn't want to share? Okay, or in, like we have in some places in Hadley, recently we've seen where they put a fitness studio in. There isn't enough for the 2-for-1, even with that in their area, and the parking of the neighbors down the street. And the neighbor now doesn't have parking for his customers or their customers, however you want to call it. And there's been some bad feelings between the developers on that. So I know they say, well, it's up to the developer to figure out how to deal with it. Well, my gut feeling here is, do we really want to put developers against each other and look for trouble? We're trying to make people get along, but it seems like that's going to force issues.
Yeah, I thought that Kyle had said that our hands were tied on the 40R, that the state had, we couldn't exceed their maximum. Like, we as a town specified minimum parking. But I thought, if I understood what Kyle said, the state's 40R is intended to be along mass transit routes. And so they say there's a maximum amount of parking because they're trying to go the other direction from what your common sense is telling you.
Well, I can understand if you're on mass transit in the T area of Boston and the suburbs. We have a bus here that comes through for a few students during the school year, and it's more sparse in the summer. And granted, it's used by people. I'm not saying it's not, but you go to these shopping areas in the busy seasons, and there's only a few, and they're busy, and restaurants particular.
Yeah.
And my comment about the business is, 4 spaces may be enough for most business uses except the restaurant. So if a restaurant wants to come in, and restaurant is excellent tax money for Hadley because they get taxed twice, property taxes and meals tax. So those are things we want to encourage, not discourage.
Maybe that's something, if the mixed use is restaurant, then maybe we have a special parking requirement for that, which is
And my only comment there is today it's a hardware store.
right.
10 years down the road, a restaurant wants to move in, and there's not adequate parking.
Then I think they have to find a different site, but
Yeah,
I hear your point.
Not
I hear you.
now we're shorting ourselves.
Hmm.
Okay. If we don't plan for the future, we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot. This is all about, we are called the planning board, not the reaction board. Okay. Further under 7.1, on the top of page 12, at least that's what mine is. The PAA may allow for additional visitor parking spaces beyond the maximum if deemed appropriate, given the design, et cetera, et cetera. The PAA may also grant further reductions in parking provided in section 2 and 7.3 below. And that's just giving them too much authority. They should not, I mean, they can't, like I said, they could allow for a hardware. I'll give you an example where Essalon is. That was originally designed to be a auto parts store. They had probably 15 parking spaces, maybe that many, and it worked fine. Essalon moves in, and they're grossly undersized on parking. So you could grant somebody a reduction in parking for exactly the conditions I just said, and down the road, a restaurant wants to come in and they're, like I said, that a restaurant is good tax money. That's the things we want to encourage.
Yeah, so if they could have reserved parking but not pave it, right?
That's reserve parking is fine, as long as it could be built.
Yeah.
We do that now. The same thing on 7.3. 7.3 reductions. Notwithstanding, the PAA may reduce parking for projects not requiring site plan approval, etc. It goes through all kinds of stuff there.
Jim, I hate to bring this up, but perhaps the select board can tell us how they handle places that don't have enough parking. They sell them some parking space across the street in the land that they own. Used to be on 47 in North Hadley. Maybe they will want to sell something on the common next.
Not funny, Joe.
Okay, further under 7.3, section A down below, the availability of surplus off-street parking in the vicinity of the use being served or in the proximity of a bus stop or transit station. And I said, and it's okay, what if it's not owned by the developer? You know, what are they gonna do? So these are all things that have to be looked at in the large scheme of things, not just in this little bit.
Does the town have, and forgive me, I know Kyle worked with you on this, instances of shared parking in your bylaw? As far as, yeah, go ahead.
Areas may share parking. That's definitely mentioned under site plan approval. And really that comes into, the only place that's really worked is in the malls. And of course, the mall owns the whole parking lot, so they all share each other's parking. But we haven't found anybody willing to share their parking area within a butter.
If you were to codify it, I mean, would that be something like, because I know that some towns have language in their bylaw where they would need to produce some sort of written agreement that says during this period of time, my abutter, like the abutter can, have 6 parking spaces for my use. But I don't know if that's something, that you might have thought about in the past or are unfamiliar with, but I think with regards to private property owners and abutters who may or may not be open to allowing for a certain use to have additional parking spaces to meet the requirements. I know that some communities have adopted language under a special permit where you would then, have some sort of guarantee from the abutter or from another property owner, assuming that it's within the vicinity, for those spaces or access to those spaces.
Definitely something we could consider in, assuming that the owner who is giving up his spaces has the spaces to give.
Mhm.
But then again, you get back to changing uses and when can you reclaim your spaces and what does that do? So open, I'm just looking at some of the things, 7.3A, we really don't have surplus off-street parking. In fact, we have a overnight parking ban. In fact, we basically have a street parking ban from November through March. And we certainly do not allow, there's no parking on Route 9.
Railroad streets are only off-street or are only on-street parking, isn't it?
That is not ours.
Oh, okay.
The space around the quarters, basically from the corner to where the DEM property begins, belongs to whoever owns the quarters. So So, yeah, there's no on-street parking on Railroad Street. Well, the only place there is on-street parking is the state land, DEM land.
Yeah, I thought there were a few parallel spaces along the rail trail there.
There are, but that's
state.
state-owned.
Gotcha.
They bought the right of way of the railroad, and that's part of it. So the second part, availability of public or commercial parking facilities, I do not know of any. And then shared use, you get into some of the same. Well, we beat that one to death.
Yeah, that's the ideal that the state had, that you could reduce parking by having someone, leaves in the morning to drive to their job, and then that space becomes available for the business below their apartment. So,
Right. So Northampton, for instance, does not require parking for improvements in the downtown business district, because they do have on-street parking and a municipal parking garage. So in fact, they are increasing their demand by not requiring you to provide parking. Your customers are going to have to pay to park. But we don't have that anywhere. We don't really have any place we can implement it.
right.
Quiet side streets run into the same issue we just discussed with the senior housing. If you have people parking on both sides of the street, you're not getting a fire engine through.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would be interested in I understand this is part of the template that the state wants to see. I don't know what they have to be shown to understand that it doesn't work. Although alternately, I would say we would probably just even if we left it in, the permitting agency would just never grant a reduction. Suppose that's another way to handle it. Just yeah, okay, if we have to have that in there, if we have discretion to consider a request for lesser parking, the answer is always going to be no until someone builds a parking garage.
Yeah. So if you're going to make us carry a gun, that's fine, but we're not going to buy bullets.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on that? Through 7.3.
And I think what I will say here too is we just got some feedback from 40R regarding some other project, and I think it's a matter of discussing here, things that might be a warranted conversation with the state. I know, I think as I know, Kyle was working on this with the committee. I said, I'm sure parking is going to be a major point of conversation for the planning board when it gets to them. So I think parking definitely, and trying to find the nuance of maybe some other communities have adopted 40R. If there were some, conversations that may have occurred that could be helpful for, what this might finally look like.
Yeah, and hopefully the EOH LC understands that it's not one size fits all. Hadley is not Make a Plain or
Yeah.
or Brookline.
Mm-hmm.
7.4, location of parking. This one's a little bit confusing to me. All surface parking lots shall, to the maximum extent feasible, be located at the rear or sideway building relative to any principal street, public open space, or pedestrian way. That's fine. Parking shall not be located between a building's primary facade and the primary street. On the first sentence, it says, to the extent feasible, and the second sentence says you can't park in the front. So you're, what is it? You shall, to the extent feasible, or you shall not park at all. Then I've got a comment, what if the building is set way back from the road, like over 100 feet? We have a lot of places like that where there's, well, Lowe's is a good one. You got a restaurant in front,
Yeah,
and Lowe's is set to the rear. So that means Lowe's has to be set way closer to the street and no parking in front. And the parking for the restaurant, because it's all one property, does that mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
I guess there's all kinds of scenarios where right now we say we don't have parking shall not be located between the building and primary facade. We pretty much have the first sentence in site plan approval for parking, something like that. Parking where reasonable to, so exact words I don't remember. Parking shall be to the rear of the building. Most places like it in front because it makes the place look more busy. It's good for customers. Good
but
for
that's, but that's commercial, not residential. I think they're trying to not have
This
cars in,
doesn't say residential. This says all surface parking.
Yeah, and Mark, the goal here is to have commercial on the first floor.
well, that's one of the goals. It's mixed use
Right,
or just housing. So it's housing, or we also encourage mixed use. And so, yeah, mixed use, that in that case, Jim's Lowe's example is a little closer to applying, even though there's no housing there. You know, so I get that. Yeah. And that's, and if Ken can make progress with Boston, sure.
So I think what I'll say is I'm just quickly looking at one of the various model bylaws that might have been prepared over time. And actually that comment that Jim made, that's not in this version. So it is the first sentence that's in this version, and that's actually it. It doesn't talk about structured parking, but presumably this has been, updated, or a form of this has been updated to include maybe if there is some structure parking lot, structured parking garages, etc. But I think that you'd probably be fine by removing that sentence.
And in the last sentence, structured parking must be wrapped with active uses or high-quality architectural treatment on any facade facing a public street or open space. What does that mean?
A parking garage cannot be ugly. It has to have some fenestration on it. But we just left that alone because we had no envisioning that anyone could amortize the cost of a parking garage. It's millions of dollars. It's not going to happen.
So structured parking really is a parking garage?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay, I had no clue.
Yeah, we just said, that's never gonna happen. That's fine.
Okay. All right. All right. That's different. If that's what that means, you're right, yeah. Leave it alone. Anybody else have anything on anything in section 7? Section 8, I really had no comment. Anybody have anything in section 8? Section 9, same thing. I have no comments. Anybody have anything in 9? Section 10,
The only thing I'll say on 9.6 is that that's not how we do peer review.
oh, okay,
We don't request a deposit. We request that the applicant contract directly.
Do you have language of that, Bill? Bylaw?
I think we do have that in the planning board regulations
regulations have that.
that you all developed for us.
Mr. Kyle.
Section 10, I have no comment. Anybody have anything in section 10? Section 11, I have nothing. What do you have anything in 11? Section 12. You have nothing. Anybody?
Well, yeah, I have. That's leaving a lot of heavy lifting. I thought there were going to be design standards incorporated in the bylaw.
Is there another section? Because there's the sub districts.
That's later.
Yeah. Is that like,
Oh, no, let me just preview. Yeah, I think it's like the last 2 pages, but the sub-districts do state, well, east sub-district states Hadley Village Center design.
Okay, and that's fine, although I did say it also mentions that for both sections in another spot.
Yeah. So those.
Yeah, so the west also says consistent with the village center guidelines.
yeah, I don't think the east was not intended to match that.
Okay. That was what, sections,
So,
where were we, Pete?
12, I
Well,
think.
Yeah,
section 12.
right.
First page, I have no comments. Anybody have anything? 12.6, I guess, green space, a minimum of 20% of the existing project shall be to open space. Using our current calculations, I believe open space is probably really closer to 30 or 40%.
It's 20.
20%?
Yeah, current's 20.
Okay. All right, I stand corrected. All right. Under 12, building design. Just a comment here. Under 2, building articulation, long monotonous facades are prohibited. The way our current zoning bylaw is written, we try not to use prohibited, but only say what is permitted. Therefore, everything else is prohibited. So I would try to encourage you to do the same thing here.
Yeah,
Under-
and monotonous is kind of an open-ended term,
Yeah.
depending on who looks at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Under 3, building material shall be durable and high quality. I'm not sure we can say that. Zoning cannot regulate materials, only appearance. So I'm not sure we can tell them what kind of materials to use.
Yeah, I think that came from the template.
Well, just because it's from the template doesn't mean it can do it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that there's some instances based on Jim's comments that, in closer review can either suggest striking or rewording that it still would
Right.
muster with the state. Before we go on, Jim, I know that we had mentioned something with regards to parking location. So 12.6.3, they use the language shall in this. So, I guess we can kind of reflect the language that might be in that previous section with regards to where parking can be allowed.
To the extent reasonable.
To the extent. I don't know, we have future change.
I do have a couple of things, the word shall, we just went through this with the screening on solar, where the bylaws said the planning board shall require reasonable screening. And we ended up changing that the planning board may require reasonable screening. But where they do use shall here, I'd rather put in should. If that's going to pass muster.
Be located to the rear or side buildings
Or
as
even-
practical, as reasonable.
Yeah, relationship to street, buildings should have their primary entrance oriented to the public street or a primary pedestrian way. We don't want to be the architects here. We're not designing things. If someone has a better idea, we'll look at it.
Right, because if you've got a long, narrow lot and you've got a long building, you're not gonna have the front face the street.
Right. Makes sense.
Just also on another thing here, I know that Bill alluded to it earlier with regards to the Hadley Village Center, how that alludes to the design guidelines presented there, and whether or not it would be applicable with regards to how this might look. So I just wonder if there is a further conversation that needs to happen with regards to how it might need to look in the various sub-districts. I know we're not there yet, but just, drawing attention to the fact that Hadley Village Center design guidelines are alluded to here. And in the model, it does say that it should be a separate document. So presumably the committee and staff.
I'm sure that village overlay district appearance design would be applicable to buildings that could be built in the west end of this district. We'll get to that later in a few minutes, finding the districts.
Okay.
In the east end of the district.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
It's on, we get into section B. Anybody else have anything in these before we get to B? We'll come back to the definition of the two districts in a minute. I'd rather go through the dimensional stuff first. Okay. Page 20. Basically just put permitted with approval, special authority, stuff like that. That's all okay. B 1.3, dimensional and density requirements, East Sub-District. First question I've got is got minimum density, DU per AC, I think it's AC. I'm assuming DU is dwelling unit, but what is AC?
Acre.
Okay. Probably should define that someplace so that when people, other than the committee, knows what that means. Even if it's just a little note on the side. Let's see. Under setback requirements, 20-foot front yard setback, or that's shallow. Especially along Route 9. For residential use. That's my 2 cents there.
Yeah.
Well, part of this whole process is going to require densifying everything, and I'm not saying that 20 feet is the appropriate number at this point in time, but that's part of the being able to get more units onto a piece of property that would then allow for economies of scale for somebody to build these things at a reasonable price.
I understand that, but I'm just saying 20-foot setback from Route 9, it's becomes more of a safety thing than anything else, in my opinion. I mean, you got a highway 20 feet from wherever the setback line is that sees 50,000 plus cars a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, agreed.
That's for the West District. No, that's the East District, right?
That is.
That's the
And
East District, okay.
I'll also say that we have not seen the last reconstruction of Route 9. And if you recall, we went through, we spent a lot of our time going through re-permitting people who had to move because they lost part of their front yard. And it's going to happen again one day. So if we're 20 feet from the right of way now, 20 years from now, they could be 10 feet. I definitely would like to see that back. Maybe 40 feet would be a good compromise.
I mean, height-wise, depending on the actual district we look into, 50 feet, that's going to be more of a fire department issue. Is 50 feet too high for the ladder trucks and stuff to reach reasonably? I don't know. Right now it's 42 feet, so you're 8 feet higher than our existing maximum.
We could talk to the fire department about that one, Jimmy, and see what's what. I don't know what that new ladder truck, how high it will go.
Yeah,
Granted, we haven't gotten it yet.
I mean, how far away can they be? It's got the reach, and there's a bunch of things they've got to look at there. Yeah. Okay. That's B1. B2 is the West Sub-District, which is basically, from what I understand, well, I'll call it the West Sub-District. And my comment there is a couple things here under dimensions.
Still in my meeting.
42 feet in this district is probably too tall. You've got a lot of existing residences in this area, and putting a monster structure in front is going to really upset a lot of people. It could upset a lot of people. I mean, I'm looking the height of my house from the ground to the peak, and I've got a full 2-story with a 512 pitch roof. My maximum height of my house is probably 26, 27 feet. This thing is going to be 15 foot higher than my house. That's a tall building,
That's a 3-story, yeah.
okay? The other thing is side yard setback, 5 feet. That is grossly inadequate. But for that reason, where I'm using there is, you've got use what you've got. You've got a 42 foot tall building. The buildings are 5 feet apart. And somebody wants to get up with a lift, because a ladder can't do it. So you want to get in there with a boom lift to replace a window, replace a broken window, do some work on a siding. A man lift will not fit in that space. I've got a boom lift, and it's 5 foot wide. And that's about as small as that is as small as you're going to get widthwise. There's no way I'm going to go in a 5 foot room. I have trouble getting where it's 7 or 8 feet, let alone that. So that needs to be at least 10 foot consistent. 10 foot you could probably do.
And it's probably coming from an urban
You know,
setting.
they certainly are going to be
template.
doing maintenance on these buildings, especially if they're 30 feet tall.
Yeah,
And
if you have, and I'm not saying this is the right thing, but if the 5 foot setback, it would be on both sides of the line. So you'd have 10 feet between the buildings. And now you're talking, is that safe for fire?
because this is all one lot, is it 5 foot per building to the sideline or 5 foot between buildings?
Well, it looks to me like it's a 5 foot side yard, not
That's-
between buildings.
That's my point.
Yeah,
Be clear.
right.
If it's 5 foot to the sideline and you have 10 foot between the buildings, that's fine. But all I'm saying is because this is one property, there's really no sideline between the buildings. It is all one property, right?
Yeah,
clear.
but you would still have the dimensional requirements like you would with any building. So I think that's what this is talking about.
All I'm
So-
saying is be clear,
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
Yeah, and I think we can definitely also add some language with regards to in no instance shall there be less than 10 feet
You know,
between
like,
buildings.
even something like separation between buildings, something that simply defines it better, more clear, that's all. Because, you know, the way this is put down, okay, attached single-family townhouses, 0 feet, okay, that's understandable, they're gonna be abutting each other, all right. Bicep, yeah, just be clear what that means. Anybody else have any comments on dimensional requirements? Okay, anybody, nothing. District. Can we put the map up because I have no clue what is being rezoned?
Before we leave this, could we go back to page 18, section 12.1? I had made a note, but I didn't see it when we were going by. 12.1 applies village center design guidelines generally to both districts. And I don't think that's what we want.
I agree. I don't think you can apply the village
Right.
center design guidelines to the western zone.
To the eastern zone.
The reason for that is the village center guideline has a limit of 12,500 square foot footprint.
Yes, so that should apply to the western, but not the eastern. Eastern is the malls,
Right, it applies to it should apply to the western, but not the eastern. Yes.
right?
Okay. So the,
but not if the overlay district supersedes. So we may have to talk about that.
Clarify how you use the village center design guidelines, right? Are they guidelines? Or are you expecting to measure and approve things based on a reflection of what is presented in the development plan? And does it mirror what is required or what is suggested in the set of guidelines? So, but I think one of the big takeaways from this conversation is the difference between the sub-districts and the requirement of the design standards for each.
Right, yes, we just need to make that distinction clear. And the village center design guidelines are a fine starting point for the west. But we don't have anything comparable for the east.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, I don't think the east needs to be or.
and you may be right, maybe the east doesn't need design guidelines. Just like we have today.
Okay.
Like
Um,
Dave's hot chicken.
Although, yeah, we seem to, in one voice, they're giving, on the one hand, they're giving us a lot of flexibility to adopt design guidelines. Scale, proportion, grade of streets, types of infrastructure. So I don't want to just not have anything.
Right.
I don't know. Do you know, Ken, if there are adopted guidelines in other communities that we could use as our own template?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can definitely take a look or ask HLC to see, because the malls obviously are, representative of a certain type of development and the expectation that it's going to be, New England style, which is what your village center, typically is. It's probably not going to happen. But I'm sure that there's some language or some examples by which HLC might have seen with other communities.
Yeah, I'm thinking especially because I know there are some districts that could probably be similarly compared to that of the East Street District area there. So I would think that in those model bylaws, we could do some digging into there if they have any design guidelines that are applicable for that as well.
Sure.
If we don't have anything, then we're kind of stuck because it does say an application for plan approval shall not be subject to design standards that have not been approved by EOHLC. So it's almost like the comprehensive permit country, that if we don't have guidelines, we have to take what they give us.
Yeah, I don't feel like we fleshed that out much. I think we ran out of steam on that.
Well, it may not be, as I said, it looks like a heavy lift because we're starting from scratch. We have very little guidance here, but if we can see what some other communities have done, we may be able to build on that easily.
Right. I know that there's examples, because your East District is, prevalent of some, large parcels with already existing commercial type structures that probably may be reused, maybe. But there's definitely examples that we can probably look at and research to come up with at least some guidance, and then also, maybe ask HLC with regards to standards, what's the expectation for how it needs to be written, how it needs to be adopted by the board, and, come up with that.
Do you have the adopted village center overlay guidelines available?
not without Googling it. I mean,
Okay, no, I just wonder if you want me to send it to you, I
No,
can.
please send it. Because that could be helpful as far as, you know, as this suggests, and, you know, your comment about that the design standards need to be approved by HLC. We probably need to have some sort of guiding document that they need to review and approve, whether or not that's, and then presumably the planning board would approve as well as the you know, when before and the bylaw probably takes an effect if passed by town meeting.
We did approve it, I want to say about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So we have approved guidelines.
Anything else on the main part of the bylaw?
So we go back now to the one about the east and the, I'm sorry, the west and the dimensional. We probably do want to retain in the west sub-district the not to exceed 12,500 square foot footprint.
Yeah. It would be hard to exceed that, but yeah, we should keep that.
Well, bear in mind, that is the existing hotel. The one at the, I forget which. The hotel at the Village Barn Shops is a 12.5 footprint.
Okay, yeah.
And so is the new Marriott.
Yes.
Jimmy wanted the map.
Look at the map, please, yes. So I'm not clear what you're proposing to rezone here. Is it the existing business zones or is it the areas in color?
The areas in color.
Okay. I have,
We're also showing two options.
I have no idea how you're going to define that, for one thing, because the assessor's map, as everybody I'm sure is aware, is not accurate to the foot or two. So that's one question, that's one comment. The other thing is you just made a whole bunch of landowners. You just put a lot of money in a bunch of landowners' pockets because you're rezoning their land and the town is going to get nothing out of it. When Lowe's was rezoned and some of the others, there was some negotiations that went on to rezone them to business. And there was some donations to various things in town. And here, you're just giving landowners basically a lot of extra money potentially in their pockets. And my other comment is, I think to begin with, we should do one either east or west, but not both. It's just too much to bite off. Because we don't, if this thing turns out to be a disaster, we've just made a disaster out of the entire Route 9 corridor. We don't know what we're getting into.
Define disaster for us, please.
I don't have a definition. It just is like when we did the senior housing overlay. We did it in a small bite to see what the interest was. And we found the interest was not overwhelming. And so we've added a few areas. And if this turns out to be a lot of interest and developers are super interested in this, and we start to get in, I'm gonna pick a number, I don't know, 500 or 600 apartments, that's gonna overwhelm the town. In a lot of instances, I think we should go with one or the other to begin with. That's my 2 cents. And see what the interest is. Can always add it down the road.
Okay.
But to define the way you've got, especially the green, I don't know how you define that. Like I said, because you can't go by the assessor's map, which is exactly what's in front of us, because the boundary lines aren't accurate.
So,
And if
yeah.
not accurate, you know, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think what it does, Jimmy, is it incorporates any parcel that is starts within the business zone and goes beyond it. I believe that's what this represents.
Right, we were proposing that the east zone have the yellow dashed boundary. And then the question was asked, what does that mean if a parcel is partially in it and partially out of it? So to illustrate the difference, we asked PVPC to put color to all parcels that were in the, or at least touch the district. So we were not necessarily intending all of the green. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that
And
was
we-
more of for discussion. Go ahead, Ronnie. I'm
We
sorry.
also know that some of it is probably wetlands and
Right,
not
right.
buildable. And frankly, we didn't see people clamoring to build these housing projects. They have to have affordable housing. You're much more optimistic than we were.
Yeah. We had a couple of developers meet with us and that they were just basically throwing up their hands like, no one's going to touch this unless they can do a larger quantity. It's not viable. So I think what we were envisioning in the West District was that property owners might add a few housing units as like infill, but it was not going to be any apartment building, any big projects. There just isn't the land available or, to make it capital, feasibly something. Yeah, profitable.
Why didn't you take the East District to the Amherstown line?
We were holding it back so as not to give, as Jim was just saying, putting money in people's pocket. We were holding it back from Greenleaf's Vesta area so as not to undermine. Aren't they currently existing non-compliant?
They received zoning variances under 40B to put those in.
Right. So I think the fear I had was that if we took that all the way to the line, we as a town would no longer have any any to negotiate with them on their, affordability limits, et cetera. When do they sunset? Do we know?
Well,
Offhand?
on one hand, in one sense, it doesn't matter what the documents say because they only exist by virtue of the 40B. So they cannot convert to market rate. If you included them, they would still be subject to a 20% affordability requirement if they wanted to expand.
Okay.
well, the former Greenleafs, whatever they're called today, they have several variances on 40B variances. One, and I'm not sure which is which, but one of them has a sunset clause and the other one is in perpetuity. You'd have to
Okay.
look and see which is which. I don't
The-
remember off the top of my head.
The senior housing is in perpetuity, and the family housing is what could roll off, but for a court decision in from Wellesley that says the only reason you are allowed to build was because of 40B, you are stuck with with that bargain.
Okay.
So
then we could take this all the way to the
I think you can take it all the way to the line. Yeah, again, they can't convert out of affordable housing at all. It would still be subject to at least the 20%, but it's more likely that that would be something, if they wanted to build something new, they could try to do that under 40R. But I don't think they can unravel what they've got for the other.
Okay.
And I would verify what Bill just said, because I believe he's correct. Don't get me wrong. But I would verify that with town council first to make sure, because the complex at Stop and Shop is already expired from their original 30 years or 20 years, whatever it was. And they talked about converting it to market rate, and they were told, no, you can't, because it's not a permitted use. So they're just keeping it affordable.
Jim, one thing I noticed, there was not any discussion in the documents regarding the infrastructure, i.e. sewer and water. And this makes Jim's suggestion even more appropriate, because it's not going to be, if we built everything in both these districts, where are we going to go with our sewer? Our sewer is at, well, one of the reports I heard at 85% capacity, another one is 65%, but nevertheless, it's up there, it's getting high. And so also too, we have a water ban, and we need some help for our second water tank or put a new water tank in. So we should make sure we have the infrastructure available to satisfy if we're going to do point east and west. So if we are going to approach it, probably we should make some division unless we are assured we do have the infrastructure to support it.
Are there cases out there that we can draw up on where we can codify language about,
Well, there was a proposal that was supposed to go before the town meeting regarding the sewer and what direction we're going to go in. Are we going to connect with Amherst, and what's going to be the cost? And that's Randy's department. And but I understand there is some sewer problems in Greenleaf. I'm not sure if that's in the Amherst problem part or the Hadley part, but Balthazar was in there doing some work. So I think we probably do need a little discussion there.
Yeah, and I think, Joe, that the problem at Greenleaves was in the Amherst part of the sewer system. And we are, we're trying to talk with Amherst. It's, I'll call it ongoing. It's not consistent, but the question continues to come up about, can we send our sewage to Amherst, and hopefully we can get that worked out sooner than later.
So anyways, from what I hear from Mark is that you don't have it clearly defined which zone, particularly the east zone, what it encompasses yet.
yeah. We were going a certain distance from Route 9, and then we also thought, well, why don't we just take that what is that? East Hadley Road, yeah.
Ballpark figuring on the north side of Route 9, if you do the rezoning of the parcels, I mean, you're doubling, you're more than doubling the business zone on the north side of Route 9.
Isn't a lot of that restricted by either wetland or habitat?
I don't know that.
Yeah, quite a bit is for sure.
But it doesn't make any difference. I mean, we should know if it is or not.
Well, we've talked about this in the past at our meetings, and we're going to let the potential developers figure out whether it's usable or not. I don't think that we should be, I mean, we can't afford to do it. We'd have to determine wetlands, where they are on all these sites, et cetera, and that's well beyond the financial capabilities of this town. So you let the potential developers figure out what can happen on any piece of property, just like they do with anything else for that matter.
And I'm just gonna go back to my comment, is that you're potentially putting a lot of money in landowners' pocket by rezoning all of this property without any kind of negotiations.
Yeah, but the big deal, Jimmy, is that we're trying to put money in the town's pockets, and if that means that landowners' values went up, amen for them. If they sell it, they're gonna, they'll make money, but the town will increase its tax base, and that's really what this is all about.
So I would be completely comfortable with the business district and the industrial district outside of the village center overlay district. So basically just the east section for starters, where it's already developed. I think the fact that there is any undevelopable land in that stretch of Route 9 is already telling us that it's not very developable. So,
Yeah, just ask Seven Brew.
so yeah, what we're looking at is we're looking at a reuse of, we're not breaking new ground. We're going to be adaptive reuse of existing properties. So to the extent you could trace out the, you could take the business district from the zoning map, it'll include some more land than you have shown there, but yeah, it will include some more. And the industrial district to the Amhersttown line.
I would entertain looking at that at our next meeting.
But we're gonna get the most bang for our buck as far as the town potential revenue goes from the east side, certainly.
And that is at least part of that is the area that would be benefited by that proposed sewer connection.
Correct. Yeah, well, the whole town would be, if we can make it work, we'll flow as much sewage as we can to Amherst. It doesn't necessarily have to be on Route 9. We can pump if we need to, but
Right.
for the most part, it would be the Route 9.
Okay, anybody else have any comments on anything or questions? Well, Mark and committee and Ken have a little bit of revisions to make.
Yeah, Jim, thank you very much. You've obviously put a lot of thought into that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's a lot of time.
When I saw the length of this bylaw, I was like, holy moly. But, I mean, gotta be what it's gonna be, because as somebody once told me that when you try to make something more idiot-proof, the idiots get smarter. So you just gotta put more stuff into it to address those kind of things. And I mean, it's a silly statement, but it's true that people find little loopholes all the way, all the time. And you've done granted you had a template to work from, but there's still a lot of work there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have nothing else for the 40R committee. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, committee.
Would you, would meeting again in the first Tuesday of August be useful? Will that give you time to play with it a little more?
Ken, can you come through in that time frame?
I mean, I think between Evan and I, we can, divide and conquer. I think the edits to the bylaw are, what they are based on the conversations. I don't think that there's any issue. I think we would probably be meeting with your committee, the 40R committee, in the interim. I think it's trying to get that date
Yeah.
down. That would be.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we meet before the planning board joint meeting again.
Right.
So 40R on August 4th is okay with you?
Yeah, I'll be on vacation, but again, I'll Zoom and I should have much better coverage in Maine than I do in Illinois.
Okay. That's the one nice thing about Zoom.
Yeah.
I think we've
So-
all been at some really weird places and been there for the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the 40R committee section of this meeting.
I will just add to your motion a thank you to Ronnie Williams, to Andrew Gnatic, to all of you members, Randy Iser, and
Mark Dunn.
Thank you. And I think we also had we added Evan there at the end. I always forget his last name. It's sort of
Nice long Italian name, Mastriani. Oh, you're talking about the other Evan.
There's an Evan in town, yeah. It starts with a J. What's his last name? Help me. Oh, anyway,
Rogers or something like that.
yeah. Anyway,
Jacobs, maybe.
Jacobs. I think you're right. Yeah. So, and we also had we had some valuable input from Dylan Mans Barstow.
And Mark, do we have a date set up for our committee so we can go over this before?
Yeah, do we were we sticking with Wednesdays because it's inconvenient for Randy? If he's gonna shoot his Wednesday afternoon and evening, he might as well
Yeah,
get it all
might as
done in
well,
one night, right?
Might as well make
So
a day
when
of
is your
it.
next? Yeah. When's your next select board?
Tomorrow night.
Next week. So
Okay.
we got a meeting tomorrow, but that's a special meeting, so the 15th.
The
The
15th.
first and third meeting, the first meeting was the last Wednesday, Mark.
Okay, so does everybody want to do the 15th at 4:30 to 6?
Okay,
Works for me.
fine.
Thank you, Andrew.
I will
Yes.
change the shortcut name there. I will not put it in there.
Okay, 40R. Okay. All right, then, all in favor of adjourning the smart?
Nobody seconded it.
Second,
Oh, thank you, Ronnie. Any comments or changes before we vote on adjournment? All right. I'll start with Dunn, aye.
Ayes or aye.
Williams, I.
Gnatic, aye.
All right, excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Right,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you, planning board.
And if you,
Thank you.
if you're having trouble falling asleep, you can stay on, listen to the planning board. So,
No. You won't have trouble falling asleep, but I'm gonna stay anyhow.
Okay. So that we don't, we're not here all night. Really what I want to get on for the next plan, for the planning board is a change to the A and R filing procedure. That's the approval not required.
Before we launch into that, could I just make a motion to authorize the chair to sign the FY 27 services agreement with PVPC?
I would second that.
Motion second. I do not have a copy of that. Do I have a copy of that yet, Kim? I haven't seen it.
I sent it around when Ken sent it,
I
but
sent it with the bill, with the
Oh.
final invoice.
Do you know when you sent it, Bill?
Would that have been in June, early?
yeah, it would have been in June, middle of June. It,
Okay.
Ken's bill was on this, in that as well.
I will
Middle
look
of June.
for it.
Okay.
Right. All right, I'll look for it. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on it? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Done, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Maximowski, aye.
Rodnick, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Very good. Next one is I want to make a change to how we approve our A and Rs for approval not required. I did a little bit of research, and over the last, I'm going to say maybe 3 years, we've signed a fair amount of A and R plans, and we increased the fees about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, 2 years, whatever it was, from so much as a linear foot to just a flat fee for each building lot. And I went to see the town clerk, and there have only been about 4 A and R plans filed with fees of all that we've done. People don't need that paper filed with the town clerk, so once the planning board signs it, they need the planning board signature to go to the county deed department and get it filed, but there's nothing that requires a town clerk signature or stamp on it. So they get it signed, even though it has a fee, they just file it with the registry of deeds, and the majority of them are not paying the town clerk the fee that we charge. So my proposal is we approve the A and R at a regular planning board meeting like we've been doing. And the person that has the form is told how much the fee is. They go to the town clerk, pay the fee, she stamps it paid, and then they get the planning board signature. No town clerk stamp and signature, no planning board signature. That'll ensure, more than likely, hopefully, that the fees are then paid to the town clerk. Again,
Makes
planning
sense.
board approves the A and R plan at a meeting. They're told what the fee will be. They pay that fee to the town clerk. Town clerk stamps it paid. They come and get the planning board signature. They're not doing any extra steps because they still need a planning board signature. But instead of the planning paying the fee after the signature, they'll pay it before. And then they get the planning board signature. They go to the registry of deeds and everything is just the way it used to be. I already talked about this to the town clerk and she has no problem with it. She actually thinks it's a good idea.
I'll second the motion.
Isn't Mr. Iser the person who does the most A&Rs, so he's gonna lose clients if they have to
Well,
pay
the thing
fees?
is, he gets the plan and he gives it to his client. So unless he starts doing the filing, the few that Randy has done the entire process has gotten paid. In fact, I'll be very honest. The
Yeah.
few that have been paid have been by Randy or Tom Reedy.
Okay,
And I just got that last one that you guys approved on Colony Drive there, that little triangle that the neighbor was gonna buy. I told him after you signed the plan, Jimmy, I called him and I said, I gotta have a check for $160. He brought it. And I brought it to the town clerk. So that one got paid too.
Thank you, Randy.
Very good. We've got a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Done, aye.
Dwyer, aye.
Max Samaski, aye.
Grodnick, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. And the way we'll do this is we'll approve it. I will inform the town clerk what the fee will be with an email similar to what I do for the waivers. So she'll know what to make sure the fee is the correct fee. And then they find one of us on a planning board, typically Bill, myself, or Joe. Usually, I've been available the most, I think, recently since good old retirement, but that's beside the point. And we sign it and they go on their way.
Yeah, so we just want to see the town clerk stamp, paid stamp
Yes,
on the Form A.
that's correct.
And does this have to get changed in regulations or bylaws or anything?
There's no bylaw on this. This is just an informal,
It's just a procedure.
just a procedure, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think what you can also do is just have in your directions to applicants is fill out 2 Form As. One goes to the planning board, one goes to the town clerk. And, and then the insurance that, oh, did you file with the town clerk? But I think you getting the stamp of the town clerk, I think that's sufficient too.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Right.
I know that Plainfield apparently just has a flat fee. And you pay the town clerk, you drop the plan with the town clerk and pay the fee. And then the planning board sees it.
Yeah, those towns typically have in-person meetings, Bill. It's different because you guys meet via Zoom. But I mean, anything that I do, I'll make sure that the client pays me and I'll get it to the town, no problem. But what you're suggesting or what you just approved makes perfect sense. I mean, I feel like, okay, I'm going to trust somebody to do it and then they stick it to me and that's not right. So.
Well, that's like the banks that send you the discharge of your mortgage when you pay it off and expect you to know what to do with it.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Okay, Ken, before you are done, can we talk for a couple of minutes about the ADU?
Sure.
So I just want to make sure that I understand one thing, and no matter what the size is, can it be limited to 2 bedrooms? Do we know the answer to that?
Ooh. You don't know that.
I don't know. I'd have to take a look at the regulations to see if that is addressed there.
All right, well, I will do the same and see what we can come up with, but I think that, the bigger size ADU, if you could put more bedrooms in it, I'm sure that's going to be a concern. And I just want to limit it to 2 if we can do that.
Yeah, I think you can go to mass.gov/ADU.
Yeah, I'm sure. I hope it's there somewhere.
Yep.
But that's just one suggestion I have right now is that we limit it to 2 bedrooms so that there's no issues where you guys are going to think that we're going to put 4 bedrooms in a 1,200 square foot house and, rent it out to whoever.
Joe's students.
That would be Joe's farm hands.
That would be a real definition of a stuffer.
Yeah, it would. Hey,
Anyways, anybody have anything else? Not motion to adjourn,
So moved.
And seconded.
motion second. Any other comments? If not, roll call vote.
Done, aye.
Where I,
Max Samaski, aye.
The Grodnick, aye.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex. Good night, everybody.
good night.
I know.